August 1914, Auvin Ridge in Belgium. The big guns were booming nonstop. Sleeping? Forget about it. Quiet was something the tired British soldiers on Auvin Ridge had totally forgotten. A young guy named Ellery Hayes, a soldier from a farm in Devon, held onto his gun and tried to stay brave. This was the third night of being stuck there. They were running out of bullets, and everyone felt like giving up. As the sky turned dark purple and then totally black, the enemy guns suddenly stopped. It got super quiet, a weird, heavy quiet all over the place. Hayes, his face all dirty and tired, was hiding behind some tangled roots and muddy bags. He peeked up at the top of the hill and froze. There, shining in a soft, gold light that seemed to come from nowhere, were a bunch of figures. They looked like men, but way taller. They weren't wearing the usual soldier clothes, but shiny old metal stuff and faded jackets. Their armor glowed a little, and each one had a long bow, pulled back and ready. Hayes blinked hard, his eyes super tired, but they didn't disappear. He rubbed his eyes again, thinking he was going crazy. But they were still there. Right then, the German soldiers who were coming towards them suddenly stopped. Some of their scouts, who had sneaked too close, ran back super scared. Some even dropped their guns. Others yelled about seeing old ghosts and giant armored guys. When the main German group tried to attack again, they suddenly went a different way, like something invisible was blocking them. The officers shouted, and everyone was confused, but the attack just stopped. After things calmed down, the British soldiers huddled together, sharing smokes and whispers. They told each other what they saw. The bosses officially said it was just everyone being tired and scared and imagining things. But Hayes knew what he saw. He remembered those quiet figures glowing in the gold light. Days later, in his small, dark shelter, with just a little candle, he wrote down what really happened in his notebook. They weren't normal people, he wrote, his hand shaking a bit. They stood like old statues made of moonlight and shadows. And their eyes had a cold fire that had seen 1,000,000 people die. The ink smudging a little on the damp paper. Maybe the land remembers all the fighting that happened here. And when things get really bad, it sends out its silent protectors. December 1915, Derns Wood, near a town called Ypres. The cold wasn't just cold. It bit at the soldiers' faces and sneaked right through every tiny hole in their coats. Fog was everywhere, rolling over the muddy ground like a silent, creepy monster. Lieutenant Francis Elwin, a brave leader, was taking his patrol out late at night. He couldn't shake the feeling that the ghosts of all the soldiers who had died there were watching them. Everyone said more bones were buried under that muddy field than boots walking on top of it. It was a scary thought. The fog was so thick you could barely see your hand in front of your face. Elwin held his lantern low, its weak light barely cutting through the swirling mist. They were heading towards a broken-down dugout, a kind of underground shelter that had been smashed by the fighting. Suddenly, a shadowy figure just appeared out of the fog. 1 second, nothing. The next second, someone was standing there. This person didn't move, didn't say anything. His face was hidden by a hat pulled way down, so you couldn't see his eyes or anything. His uniform was all covered in mud, just like everyone else's, but Elwin noticed a long, heavy coat that looked old-fashioned, like something from a storybook. The strange figure slowly lifted a hand, like he was trying to get Elwin's attention. Then, he pointed a shaky finger towards the side of the small hill next to them. Elwin felt a shiver go down his spine. He didn't know why, but he felt like he had to say something. "Who's there?" he called out, his voice a little shaky. But the figure didn't answer. He just turned his back and slowly faded away, melting back into the thick, white fog as if he had never even been there. 1 second he was solid, the next, gone. Elwin was super confused and a bit freaked out. He couldn't stop thinking about that pointing finger. There was something about it that felt important, urgent. So, even though it seemed crazy, he ordered some of the engineers, the guys who knew about digging and stuff, to check out the exact spot the foggy figure had pointed to as soon as the sun came up. They grumbled a bit, tired and cold, but they did what he said. When the first light of morning finally broke through the fog, what they dug up was seriously spooky. Buried deep in the ground, hidden under layers of mud and earth, was a whole network of German bombs, explosive charges, all connected by wires. And the worst part? The wires were live. Those bombs were set to blow up right under their trenches. If that strange warning in the fog hadn't come just a few hours earlier, dozens and dozens of British soldiers would have been blown to bits. It was a near disaster. Elwyn quickly told his bosses everything that had happened. They were shocked and started a big investigation to figure out who that mysterious person in the fog was. But they couldn't find anything. No footprints leading to or from where the figure stood. No dropped buttons, no name tag, absolutely nothing that could tell them who it was or where he went. Then, an old sergeant, a guy who had been fighting for ages and looked super pale, pulled Elwyn aside. He whispered, "That looked like Captain Layton, sir. You know, he died last December in that very trench, buried alive by a shell." Lieutenant Francis Elwyn never led the night patrols again after that. The thought of that ghostly figure in the fog and the deadly bombs they found because of it freaked him out way too much. He always wondered who, or what, had warned them that night in the creepy woods near Ypres.